to the MMA Fan Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Stu and Blake.
Hello and welcome to the MMA Fan Show. I am Blake Harrison. I am back, Harrison. I'm back, mate. Back, Harrison. And joining me as always is Stuart. Anna. How are you?
I'm all right, mate. I'm all right. It's good to have you back. Thanks again to Pippi Kins, who stepped in for a couple of weeks and done a fantastic job. It was good to have Pip back and messaged Brian Lacey as well, who's been overseas working, and said at some point we need to get the four of us back on for a big old catch-up episode. So
that would be lovely.
We'll make that happen very soon.
That would be great, yes. Thank you to Pip for filling my shoes, stretching them out with his big old boats.
Been absolutely inundated by listeners just saying the last couple of weeks they feel like it's been some of the greatest work this podcast has ever put out.
Really? Really? When have they? I haven't seen those messages.
I think people are trying to sort of spare any ill feeling, going your way. So it's just basically DM'd me.
Social media is known for sparing people's feelings. So yeah, I'm sure they have. But thank you very much to Pip. I did listen to the episodes and they were very good. So well done, you guys.
Good.
I particularly enjoyed, was it the most American guy since Matt Hughes fighting the most Scouse person since Cilla Black? Was one of my favourite lines of the other week when they're talking about the Gaethje versus Paddy fight. But we are not talking about Gaethje versus Paddy. We are talking about UFC 325. We're a bit later in the week, so we may touch on one or two other things potentially, but we really want to talk about this card. And there's a lot to talk about with it, not just the fights themselves, but the implications going forward for some of these fighters are very interesting. And there's some big debates going on that I felt like we should dive into.
Okay. And
I haven't done enough research into it yet. I want to do it sort of live on the cuff.
Okay.
Or off the cuff, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
And it's to do with who people believe is the featherweight GOAT.
Okay.
But I will dive into that in a little bit. Firstly, I just want to say, God, I love VOLK.
Yeah.
I love him so much. I mean, the walkout was great.
Oh, that's what I wanted to talk about.
The crowd singing Land Down Under. You go for Land Down Under was a big highlight for me because I usually fast forward a lot of the walkouts. I just kind of get through it. I'm watching it in the morning. The kids are around. They need me to be dad, so I can't take up too much time. I'm trying to get through the fights as quick as I can. I had to watch that walkout, and to me, it didn't disappoint. How did you feel about it?
Oh, mate, it was unreal. And look, I was worried for VOLK. I thought Lopez might take it in the rematch, but we'll get on to what actually sort of unfolded. But the walkout, like just hearing the beginning of Down Under, and the whole crowd like roared, but there was no VOLK for a bit. And then the song's playing, and then the first shot of him just beaming with the biggest smile, like with his flag over his shoulder, still in the tunnel, nowhere near the crowd. And you just hear the crowd losing their shit because VOLK's coming. And then when he gets out there, it's like, it was just amazing, absolutely amazing. And and cracking fight, cracking performance. I mean, did you see any significant changes from either fighter from the first fight in this one?
I think it's fair to say that I am not well versed enough in fighting. Ultimately, we do this podcast, and I think the thing I want to talk about a lot of the time is almost like the storylines going into the fight, the storylines coming out of the fight, where we think the division should be, are the UFC doing the right things for fighters, all that kind of stuff. I have had a few moments that, I'm going to pat myself on the back and say that I've analysed a couple of things in the past and got it right. I think I was one of the only people out there saying Justin Gaethje should throw a high kick when he fought Dustin Poirier for the second time in the BMF fight. He threw it, he knocked him out.
Still going on about that?
I am. There was another one as well. That was it. Yuri Prochazka against Khalil Rountree. I said Khalil's going to smash Yuri up for 2 rounds, and then Yuri's chin is going to still be there, beaming at him. and then
Did
he's going to
you-
knock Khalil out. I said that as well.
Did you also
So-
say a couple of weeks ago that Shavkat was going to be the champ at the end of the year?
I can't remember, but that's definitely not happening. We can talk about that. Oh, boy. Poor old Shavkat. I mean, I'm also the guy that told you Sean Strickland can't touch Israel Adesanya with a barge pole. I was very wrong there. I was also one of pretty much everyone that told you that Juliana Pena had no chance against Nunes in their first fight. I'm not saying I get it right all the time, but when I get it right, oh boy, I get it right. Yeah, I can't remember why we were even talking about that. I've just gone off and won and just blown smoke up my own arse for the last 30 seconds.
Before we get on to how great Alexander the Great is, right?
And how great I am at predicting fights, yeah.
We
That was it. You were asking me if I saw any differences.
Yeah.
Personally, I basically felt like I saw exactly the same fight as the first one. Did you see many differences?
No, not really. I think Volk was circling more than maybe the last time. But yeah, I didn't see any significant differences. I think Volk's just his striking's brilliant, and I don't necessarily always think of him as a striker. But yeah, I just think he's so well rounded, and he's got his number. And what's weird is as well, right? As much as like Volk's, how can you not love Volk? Right? Everyone loves Volk. And he carries himself perfectly inside and outside of the octagon. But let's just big up Lopez as well, because also throughout the whole of it all, and yes, maybe he was gifted a second crack at this, but has carried himself wonderfully. He just seems like an absolute dude, just such a nice guy. And I love the mutual respect throughout all of the lead up to it and during the fight as well. It was just super. It's what you want from a championship fight. And I just think, and it was, it was pretty balanced fight in places. And I think, make no mistake.
Don't know about that.
I think in places, I think so. I think Lopez held his own in places. But
You're going to pick up 5 seconds in round one and about 3 seconds in round 5. There you go.
I think there was moments that he
Balance.
showed he's a dangerous fighter, and so I don't.
No, of course, I'm being facetious. Yeah,
I don't necessarily feel that like his stock has massively dropped in any way, shape, or form. I think he's got a bit of a long way to get back to another title shot.
Well, here's the thing. We've got two sides of this coin I want to talk about. Mainly the Volk side. I mainly want to talk about the Volk side, but as you've mentioned this, I want to talk about the Lopez side.
Right.
I mean, has this fight in any way hurt Lopez? Because I'm looking at it and I'm going, look, if Volk hangs on to, like, if Volk's going to be 38 in September, he can't keep doing this. But that's what we keep saying. But Lopez is not getting a sniff of a title shot while Volk is still the top of that division. And it's like, we all knew going into the fight that Lopez had not done enough to earn a rematch. We were all very aware of it. We had Lerone. We had Movzar. Lopez had just been beaten very handily. This wasn't, like, I think both fights actually were fight of the nights, but they were not, to use your word from earlier, balanced fights. Volk won them convincingly, both of them. There was no sniff of a robbery. It wasn't a close split decision. It was Volk did his thing and Lopez was a level below. And it was very visible that he was a level below. He goes out there and beats Gene Silva in a fight where, I just called him Gene Silva. I did it you. Jean Silva. He goes out there and beats him in a chaotic fight where he was dominating in round one, but then Jan Silva kept coming back really well in round two, and then he just got caught by that spinning elbow, I think it was. That did not show us some kind of huge level up in Lopez's game. And then he has to go back into a fight 9 months later with the guy that absolutely schooled him in the first fight. Volk in this period has not fought anyone else either. We've not seen a drop-off in Volk. And now we're looking at a situation where Lopez, who's he fighting next? What's he doing? And he can't, he has to go on maybe like a 4 or 5 fight win streak unless he has 2 really good wins and Volk loses or vacates, which may very well happen. But I just kind of feel like this fight has potentially put Lopez in a bit of like limbo. Like, what do you do with, how far away do you think Lopez is from getting another title shot?
Well, look, I think, should we sort of work backwards from here then? Because it is pretty apparent that VOLK is going to be fighting the winner of the recently announced Lerone Murphy versus Mobzar.
Well, let's put a pin in that, because the way the UFC's going at the moment, we don't know, but carry on.
Oh, what do you mean?
Well, this fight was mental. Why did you give Lopez a rematch when you had two obvious contenders, both undefeated, I believe, both on very long UFC win streaks, one of them coming off of the knockout of the year in Lerone Murphy over Aaron Pico, and you gave it to Diego Lopez, who had one win after getting schooled by VOLK? I would not put it past the UFC to see Mobzar and Lerone have a very, like, competitive, but to the casual fan, boring fight. And Jan Silva goes and knocks out Yair Rodriguez or Aljamain Sterling, and they go, we're going to give it to Jan Silva. It's not right. That should not happen. But I would not put it past the UFC. Same as I'm not putting it past the UFC that they overlook Ian Gary and Michael Morales and give a title shot to Kamaru Usman. These are the times that we are living in. So, yeah, I mean, I wanted to focus more on Lopez and I suppose ask the question that, like, should they have turned down a title fight? Can you turn down a title fight when the UFC is offering it to you?
No,
and
chance.
Go, he's not ready yet.
No fighter. What are you
He was not ready yet. He had not improved enough in 9 months with one win over Jan Silva. He was not ready, and now he is locked out of the title contention room, whatever you want to call this. That door is locked.
No,
he
I
cannot
disagree,
do anything to
mate.
break that door down unless VOLK leaves.
I mean, yeah, I agree with that. But in regards to, like, there's no way a fighter is going to turn down an opportunity to fight for the belt. I rewatched that first fight, and it was a lot closer than I remembered. And it didn't seem like pure domination. And so I presumed that Lopez was going to go away and make some changes. And maybe he did, and maybe VOLK did, and they were subtle, but they were significant enough that they both moved up in their game, but the gap between them was still there. I don't think. Look, make no mistake. I can understand why the UFC will favour Jan Silva over Lerone and Mobzar, because Lerone, yes, he's got that incredible knockout, but his fights before that, you know, for the casual fan, are probably not some of their favourite fights. And the same can be said for Mobzar. Jan Silva, like, basically, he barks like a dog. He's a crazy man inside and outside of the octagon. He's always ready to stand and bang. And fans know who he is. And I think the UFC would rather have a champion that is marketable like him than definitely Mobzar. And look, we love Lerone. He's been on this show more than any other guest, but he's just a really fucking nice guy. You know, he don't trash talk really. I know, you know, you started all that stuff between him and Nathaniel Wood a few years ago. But yeah, there was, you know, a little bit of that, but it was all very respectful in the end, and because he's not that guy, and you know, and so I can see what you're saying is going to happen, but I do believe the fact that both of them fighters are unbeaten does mean that, you know, it's inevitable they get a shot. But then we're looking at Arman Sarukian as well, that the UFC are doing everything they can to keep that guy away from the belt.
100%.
And, you know, when they choose to make these fights happen, they just do it because they think it's what the fans want and it suits their narrative. So, but I do believe the winner of Mobzar and Lerone will get a shot at VOLK.
I hope you're right. I really hope you're right. And obviously I hope it's Lerone, but I hope you're right. So before we move on to Volk and more in-depth chats about that, who's next for Lopez? Do we give him Yair Rodriguez? There's a lot of heat there. They don't like each other.
Yeah, I think that the narrative's there. They had that big old
Yeah.
bust up on stage, didn't they? Last year. So it's marketable. But then Lopez versus Aljo, I'm not mad at that either. I think that could happen. Depends how long Lopez doesn't want to fight for. If maybe he fights the loser of Movsar and
if he wants
Barone.
time off, you mean? Yeah. I mean, I like the idea of Jean Silva versus Aljamain Sterling as a sort of secondary fight. Like the winner of Movsar Lerone gets the next shot, and then the winner of like a Jean Silva versus Aljamain Sterling gets the shot after that. Yeah. Something like that, maybe. Right. Let's move on to Volk. There was a lot of talk about him retiring. It was, he's in Perth, so a winnable fight because he did it only a little while ago. Is this the moment that Volk should just call it quits and ride off into the sunset, lay that belt and his gloves down and be done with it in his home country? No, it was in Sydney, wasn't it? Sorry, not Perth. He's in Sydney. So it's basically his hometown. He lives just outside of Sydney, I think. Huge moment for him. Were you hoping he was going to lay the gloves down?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think it makes all sorts of sense for him to do that, because I don't feel he's got anything left to prove. Like, he's, I don't know if in his head somewhere I don't know. Look who he's lost to. Islam on however many weeks' notice, and he also got knocked out by probably the scariest fighter in the UFC at the moment. No shame in that. You look at all the other names that he's got on that record, like 3 wins over Max Holloway. Like, he's got nothing left to prove. For me, to come back out and defend your belt in Sydney, he could have just literally just gone, right, I'm going to go and just spend the rest of my life barbecuing and just being a really fucking cool guy.
Yeah, and I think he'd have a lovely life as well. Yep. However, I think he showed, as much as Diego Lopez was not the number 1 contender, I think Volk showed, Diego Lopez to me is like a top 5 guy.
Yep.
And if he's beating top 5 guys with that amount of ease, and I'm not saying it was easy, but it was 49-46 or 50-45 for me. Then I think you've still got a lot left to give. It would have been an amazing story, but I still think he's actually got a lot to give. And maybe he's driven by there being a slight question about whether he's the featherweight GOAT. Now, most people after that are saying he is the featherweight GOAT. Is he your featherweight GOAT?
Absolutely.
Right. I'm not 100% sure if he is.
Who are you putting above him? Conor?
Obviously not. What do you think I am?
Jose?
Yeah.
Right, but I'm just looking at some rankings.
Conor, as if you're saying that I would think Conor is a greater featherweight than Alexander Volkanovski. No, yeah, obviously I'm talking about Jose Aldo. And I just want to go through their kind of resumes a little bit and just see, because I'm not sure. I don't know what to think right now. To me, it seems quite close, but this conversation may help me get some kind of closure.
Okay.
But so I'm not including lightweight here.
Right, okay.
Not including lightweight because, it's featherweight.
Yeah.
So in his lead up to get the belt, he beat Shane Young, Jeremy Kederney, Darren Elkins. I mean, those names don't mean a lot for me. But then you've got Chad Mendes, who we knew was like a top 5 guy for the time that he was fighting. He beat Jose Aldo, which obviously says a lot and is a big mark, a big credit to Volkanovski. He beat Max Holloway 3 times, obviously not in a row.
Right,
there was
let me just mirror this, right?
Oh, have you got Aldo's up?
No, I've got Conor's.
Oh, but I don't want no one cares about Conor's. Conor's not in the conversation.
Beat Max Holloway.
Yeah, but we don't need Conor's.
Why not?
He's not in the conversation. He's obviously not up there with Aldo and Holloway and
Beat
Volk.
Jose Aldo, beat Chad Mendes, beat Dustin Poirier. Right, so he's beating all the people you've just said on his. But yeah, go on, carry on.
That's it.
I'm no fan of Conor. I'm no fan of Conor.
No, but
Like,
why
for
are you
me,
even bringing him up then?
Because I looked up the rankings for the greatest featherweights of all time, and he's right up there. And so, look, I think there's a lot of people that will probably
he has not achieved more as a featherweight than Max Holloway, Volkanovski, or Jose Aldo.
Right,
no
so
way.
The top three on
not
Tapology are Volk, then Max, then Jose, then Conor.
Okay.
And then Ilya.
Okay. Well, let's have a look at this, because here's the thing. Volkanovski, Chad Mendes, Aldo before he became champ. Then he beats Max to become champ. That's a huge win. Beats Max in a rematch that was a close split decision, but he did beat him. Brian Ortega, who is very hit and miss, Brian Ortega. Like, you never... Yeah, I mean, he was good, but I don't know about Brian Ortega. Shang Tsung Jun, Korean Zombie, who at that time I think was very much on the way out. Max Holloway a third time in an absolute decimate, like completely demolished him. And it's Max Holloway. Obviously, we've got the loss to Islam, but I was up at lightweight. Then Yair Rodriguez absolutely smashed him. Then, again, a loss to Islam, but that was up at lightweight, and that was a devastating loss, but he took it on short notice. Ilia Topuria, that's a big, proper featherweight loss. But it's to Ilia Topuria, who we all think is very, very good. Then 2 over Diego Lopez. 1 over Diego Lopez is like, yeah, good win, man. But the second one over Diego Lopez, I'm like, this doesn't mean much to me, because he should have fought at least 2 other people, and it's back-to-back wins over Lopez when, I don't know, it just doesn't mean much within a year.
But do you think maybe had he have fought Lerone, like if you looked at it now and he beat Lerone, you'd change your mind, but because has Lerone got the same gravitas as your Holloways, your Jose's, your Mendes?
Well, no. Lerone or Movsar would have meant way more to me as a win than Lopez, because they're a fresh matchup and they are both undefeated. He would have given them their first 0. And they are on better runs than Lopez. So those wins would have meant a lot more to me than a second win over Diego Lopez.
Yeah.
Looking at Jose Aldo, one of the big things with when people talk about Jose Aldo is they don't include his WEC wins, which they should, because the WEC is basically the UFC just for the lighter weight classes. Zuffa owned it. They just didn't absorb the WEC until after a few years, but it is effectively the same thing. So when people say John Jones is the youngest UFC champion ever, you could actually argue it's Jose Aldo, because Jose wasn't given the chance to be a UFC champion because he was in the WEC, which was effectively the UFC. The UFC didn't have the smaller weight classes. When the UFC absorbed the WEC, they just gave Aldo the belt because it was the same belt. They didn't make him fight for it. There was no vacant title. It wasn't like he was a champion from another organization. They just went, here's your belt because we are the same company. The only change is a bunch of letters. So he won the belt off of Mike Brown. Very good win. Uriah Faber, very good win. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know who Manny Gamburian is. Mark Hominick, Kenny Florian's a good win. Chad Mendes is a very good win at the time. Frankie Edgar's a very good win. I mean, Frankie Edgar was at once the lightweight champion, wasn't he? Chan Sung Jun, a better version of Chang Sung Jun than what Volk beat. Ricardo Lamas, Chad Mendes again, and then lost to Conor. And then won the belt back against Frankie Edgar. And then lost to Max Holloway twice. So just counting up his title wins, including when he won the belt off of Mike Brown, he's got 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then an 11th championship win against Frankie Edgar. Obviously, there's the loss to Conor in there. So that's 11 title title fight victories for Jose Aldo. If we count up Alexander Volkanovski's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So Jose Aldo is 3 title fight victories ahead of Alexander Volkanovski. You can argue Alexander Volkanovski's competition has been tougher than Jose's. I think that's fair. I think Max Holloway is so good. I think beating him 3 times, it's annoying because it's a third. You've just got his number, stylistically, all this stuff. But it is Max Holloway. But I don't know, does that make you think any differently? Jose Aldo has 3 more title fight victories than Alexander Volkanovski. Does that in any way change your opinion on who is the featherweight GOAT?
I mean, look, on paper, that is what it is. It's really weird because you're emotionally involved in fighters as well. And it depends also when you watch these fighters as well. So we're watching this all happen now. We watched a majority of Jose's career when we was, both of us were into the sport. But, I'm not suggesting he's the GOAT. But, when I was watching UFC, when I first started watching it, and WEC, Renan Barão was the greatest featherweight floating about. He was, and I know you always sort of laugh when I mention him, but like, if
it's because I wasn't really watching it at that time.
I
is the
can't
truth.
tell you how insanely good this kid was, and he was going through everyone, and it was insane when he lost to TJ Dillashaw because it was like, what? Because he was that good, devastating, absolutely.
Was he not a
devastating.
bantamweight then, or did he drop down?
Featherweight. Like
Dillashaw's bantamweight though. Dillashaw beat him at bantamweight.
So he fought. Did he fight Dillashaw that weight?
Yeah, Dillashaw's bantamweight.
Right. No, he beat Faber. Yeah, Faber, Pickett. This was a feather.
No, Pickett was bantam as well, wasn't he?
All tight. Let me have a look here.
Oh God, this is going to make for great podcasting. Trying to go through all of that.
DLs, yeah. Reach 17.5, weight 146, featherweight.
Okay, fair enough. But even so, he's not in the conversation of GOAT. But does that? Because I'm not saying Volk isn't the GOAT. I'm trying to make a balanced argument because I think what we have in this sport in particular is so much recency bias. There was not that long ago, there were people out there saying Kamaru Usman's the greatest welterweight of all time. Dana White said it recently. We know he was trying to do that for monetary purposes, I'm sure. But people at one point were going, no, I think Kamaru is better than George St. Pierre. He's the GOAT. No, he didn't get anywhere near the title defenses. Only a little while ago, everyone was going, Merab is the GOAT at bantamweight. And maybe he is. But that talk has quietened down a lot since Merab got beat by Jan. And Dominic Cruz has still got a very, very good resume, and he's now entered the Hall of Fame. People talk a lot about this one's the GOAT, that one's the GOAT. People are talking about Pantoja being the GOAT. He's nowhere near the title defenses that Demetrius Johnson had, and he's now lost the belt. Granted, it was in a slightly odd way, but that's what's happened. We do a lot of like, he's the GOAT, because we're watching them in this moment. It's like, he's the GOAT. And we don't necessarily pay the right respect to the fighters that have been and gone. And I just wonder if that's what's happening with Aldo. However, what I will say is Volk is way closer to legitimately being the GOAT of his division than Kamaru Usman ever was. And I think that Pantoja is. So yeah, it's just an interesting. I still don't know. If someone says to me, who is the featherweight GOAT? I don't know which way to lean, Volk or Aldo. I think one more win for Volk.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Volk's story's not finished yet.
Oh no, I know, but that's the whole thing. People like to say before the story is finished, they're the GOAT. They're the GOAT. People were doing it with Merab. How many people now are saying, well, Merab's the greatest bantamweight of all time? But they've just seen him lost to Jan. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't think I've got necessarily a confident opinion on this. And I think it's okay for people not to have a confident opinion on it. But I keep seeing people with these nailed on, this is the guy, he's the one, opinion. It's okay to be like, do you know what, man? It's tough. Volk probably has beat better competition. But the sport evolves. It will always evolve. We still have to, football is not the same as what it was 40 odd, 50 years ago. But people still see Pele and the greatest of, esteem and Maradona and people like that. So I don't know. I don't know if I've made a point, but I've said some words.
I think your
and
point
I think people
is,
need to just take a breath and think about it before throwing out GOAT left, right, and centre.
Your point is that it's not conclusive.
Yes.
And so it is, and I do think it's subjective. I do think it is very much down to who you feel, has delivered for you as a featherweight, who you've been a massive fan on, have watched their journey and felt in part of that journey, but then if you do look at it on paper and stats, it's Jose. Make no mistake. Volk's journey's still not finished, so we don't know what's to come. Do I think he's going to get another 3 wins in the UFC with that belt? Probably not. But would I count him out? Probably not. Because
I tell you what, I look at him fighting Lerone or Mobzar and I go, I think you can win those fights.
Yeah, he'd go in as the favourite. He'd go in as the favourite, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think he can deal with Mobzar's wrestling, and I think that I think he can have a good fight with Lerone. So I don't think it would be a walk in the park for either of them.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
all right.
I don't know. It's an interesting one. And I say this, Volk is my favourite fighter.
Yeah.
So I'm saying that I'm
He's
not trying to hate on Volk.
fighter.
He's everyone's bloody favourite fighter.
Because he's just a dude. Every morning, I don't eat meat, but I watch him cook it. And I love watching him cook it.
Right. Let's move on, because we've spent a lot of time on this.
Let's move away from featherweights, because I'm now really doubting that Henan Barral fought that many fights at featherweight, and I'm now starting to question myself. So let's move on to Benoit Saint Denis versus Dan the Hangman Hooker.
Yes.
I know you mentioned Benoit as potential BMF material.
Potential, but
right.
I'm not sure he's there yet.
I think he is. Dan Hooker, we had him in that category. Do you think the last 2 losses have been that significant that probably he isn't anymore?
Absolutely not.
Really?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
I don't think you're understanding what BMF means.
No, I don't think you do. Because Volkanovski's a BMF. Volkanovski's a BMF.
No,
yes,
Volkanovski's great. No, he is not. He's not.
No.
Nate Diaz and Jorge Masvidal had terrible runs in the UFC at points. They are BMFs. What BMF means is, are you someone that gets into wars, or which Dan Hooker does all the time? Or are you someone that's just like a badass outside of the cage? Volkanovski, I love him because he's not that.
Are you a BMF to take a fight at 2 weeks' notice against the most dangerous man on the planet?
Of course, that's a great thing, yes. But Volk is not a get into wars kind of guy. When you look at fight styles, Dustin, Justin, Max, Hooker, Oliveira, people that just get hit, give it knockouts, get knocked out, those are the guys. And then on top of that, there's an attitude that goes with a Nate Diaz or a Jorge Masvidal and people like that. I think BSD is getting there.
Right. So okay,
I don't know if he's there.
Stop you on that.
Do you know what I would say? And you might find this very controversial. Someone who is retired that could have been in a BMF fight is Paul Felder. Totally nice guy, always got into wars and brought it in the cage. He's someone that I think could have fought for a BMF title if it was around when he was doing it.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that at all. So Benoit, he's quite a savage and he's always in exciting fights, right? But
he grapples a bit too much sometimes for a BMF. That's where I would say.
Okay, right. Okay, I understand that.
But he could in my head, he could get there. One war and he could get there.
Yeah, I think Benoit at the moment is probably thinking a title shot probably isn't like a pipe dream now. It could happen at some point now.
Could happen.
So let's. I don't want to focus on him right now because I want to stay on the Dan Hooker thing, right? Because in regards to him fighting a Max, a Dustin, you know, I don't want to see it because I don't think Dan Hooker's got that in him anymore.
What?
I don't think he has. I don't think so.
What are you talking about?
Because look at the last two fights.
Where he was taken down.
But he was
Max Holloway's not shooting takedowns. Neither is Justin. That's not what the BMF is about. The whole BMF thing started because Nate Diaz was sick of people taking him down and not just boxing with him. And Jorge Masvidal's the same. They were both like, we're two badass dudes outside of the cage. We say what we want. We don't give a F. And we come in the cage and we just throw hands. That's the origins of the BMF. Dan Hooker embodies that. He will give it. If you give it to him, he will give it back. If you say 2 weeks notice, he'll go, yeah, I'll jump straight in there. And when he gets in the cage, he will go, come on then, let's go. Blood all over his face. I love this shit. Let's keep just striking with each other. That's Dan Hooker. That's BMF. I'm not saying Dan Hooker, the BMF title is not got the prestige of an undisputed title. That's not, you don't have to be the best. You don't have to be on a long win streak. You have to embody something that the fans go, yeah, I love watching that guy fight. But that's what the BMF is.
I don't think, and I'm not hating on Dan Hooker, I don't think outside of Australia now that everybody's super hyped to watch Dan Hooker fight. I don't think they are.
I think you're wrong.
Really?
If you match Dan Hooker up with a striker, everyone's like, bring it on.
So there's obviously the talk
Dan Hooker,
had,
Paul Felder,
Paddy,
Dan Hooker, Justin Gaethje, Dan Hooker, Dustin Poirier.
Dan Hooker, they're not going to make them fights. They're not going. I think them other fighters have got other fights that are like Dustin. Let's take him out of the mix, right?
He's gone.
But like Max ain't going to fight him. Like Max ain't looking.
Here's the path.
I think Paddy is the fight for him.
Yes, exactly. And let's say Dan beats Paddy in a 5-round war.
He won't know.
What? You don't know that. If Paddy fights Dan the way that he fought Justin, not going for takedowns and just throwing hands, Dan can win that fight. I'm not saying he's the favourite. Dan can win that fight.
I forgot how much you love Dan Hooker.
Look, I like Paddy as well. Here's my thing. I think you have to make Dan Hooker versus Paddy. I think that there's bad blood. We need to sort that all out. It's a fight that, yes, if Paddy keeps taking Dan down, maybe it just goes one way. But Dan's not got terrible takedown defense. I mean, I know that there were moments in the BSD fight which weren't great, but I think if Dan fights Paddy and it's a fight that stays on the feet, it's going to be a really fun fight. We could see an absolute 5 or 3 round war, depending on how they do it. It could be a fight of the year contender. And if Dan wins it, he can go into a BMF title fight. And if Paddy wins it, maybe he can too. Because if Paddy, with the kind of furore around Paddy, the fun fights that he has, he's had a war against Justin that he lost. If he has a war against Dan Hooker that he wins, I think you can throw Paddy Pimblett in a BMF title fight. I think that maybe it would be a fight too soon to say he's definitely a BMF, but I think his star power will mean the UFC just does it. But I think you can definitely do that. And if Max Holloway beats Charles Oliveira and he's not getting a title fight because Ilia Topuria comes back and he does all that, and Max Holloway's next fight is just defending the BMF title again, I think Max Holloway versus Dan Hooker or Paddy Pimblett after they have a war would be great.
Where does... Yeah, look, I'm not mad at it. Did I think Dan Hooker looked good against Benoit? Nah.
First round he did.
No, I just...
Yes, he did. He was doing well, and then he made a mistake with the takedown, and that's when he was in big trouble. On the feet, he was doing well. He was kicking him to the body. Benoit looked hurt by that. He had some good exchanges on the feet. I thought Dan was actually doing really well on the feet and was actually winning that fight until it hit the ground and then he was in big trouble. I think Dan Hooker won round 1.
Stop getting upset because Dan Hooker lost.
Well, stop coming at me with your shit takes. Besmirching the good name of the Hangman.
Well, look, let's move on to the next fight quickly, because I think it factors into the future of the division as well. Because, like...
Well, but hang on, what do you do with BSD next? Because I don't know if you can throw him into a BMF title fight, but maybe you can, but I'm not 100% on board with it.
Well, look...
You could give him the BMF loser. Whoever loses the BMF title fight, you could give him that. But let me throw a curveball at you.
Okay.
It looks like they're going to do Justin versus Topuria. I think they're going to do it at the White House. The number 1 contender, potentially the best fighter in this division, has been sat out for a while now. He's still sat out. He's going to be sat out for a while. If you're Arman Sarukian and his team, and the UFC say, come on then, show us you can really properly make the weight again. Jump through this hoop for us, even though you're the number 1 guy and you should just be getting a title shot. Fight Benoit Saint-Denis. Do you take that if you're Arman Sarukian?
I would. I would to stay active.
I would too.
And I do think it's a very winnable fight for Arman. I do rate Benoit, but I think Arman Sarukian is, I want to see him tested against Ilya. I'd love to have seen him against Islam. And I do think he's, if not the best, one of the best. And you do not want to just sit out, like, stay active. And I think Benoit, I think that's a good matchup for him. And yeah, I'm just thinking, I don't think they'll give Paddy Arman. I know there's a lot of bad blood there, but I think the fact that Paddy's coming off a loss and he's, Benoit's now ranked above him, that it's the only fight that seems to make sense for Benoit.
Benoit v Paddy makes more sense than Paddy v Arman, but I think that they won't do that. I think they'll keep Paddy away from BSD. I think Paddy Hooker is the fight to make.
Who's Gamrot fighting? He's got a fight announced, hasn't he?
I don't think he does. Maybe he does. I don't think he has a fight announced, but I'll find out right now. But I think the winner of the fight we're about to talk about is the one that I wonder about Gamrot. But well,
you think Rufi
shall we move on? Should we move on to the next fight? No, Gamrot does not have a fight booked.
Okay.
He's coming off of he was on a great win streak, and then he lost to Dan Hooker, then won against Ludovic Klein, and then lost to Charles Oliveira.
Well, look, let's talk about Fiziev versus Rufi at the weekend. I thought Fiziev was looking fantastic. I thought he was moving really well. But it did... He was way more active, but he just seemed that, like, Rufi was finding his range a little bit. Seemed quite reserved by his own standards, but he was finding the target, like, with just really good shots. And yeah, I think, it was the biggest win of his career. And I think this also throws him into the mix of a really interesting division now. He's now ranked number 9. So you think Gamrot makes sense for that to be his next fight?
Well, it depends. It depends on how you want to do the matchmaking. Like, if we want to see if he has improved since the Benoit Saint-Denis fight, where he was very easily beaten by a grappler, you throw him in against Gamrot and say, can you do this? However, there's a world in which the UFC go, let's give him more time to get better with grapplers because he's such an exciting fighter. Let's give him someone that he's going to stand and strike with him so that he can get another knockout like that, which looks good, before we give him a grappler where this train could get derailed again. So I don't know. It's a terrible, terrible call out for him to call out Conor McGregor. What an absolute waste that was. But again, he is someone that could get the BMF loser. You know, Ruffy Max Holloway would be a great fight. Ruffy Charles Oliveira could be a great fight.
You're now putting Ruth. Oh, right. Okay, right. Yeah.
No, I'm just saying, like, BSD could get those fights, but equally, Ruffy could get them and BSD could get Arman or something like that. But I mean, again, I think that you have to make the Hooker Paddy fight. But if for some reason you don't, Ruffy versus Hooker would also work, a striking match.
I think that's a really fun fight.
It's a fun fight. I think I worry for Dan in that one.
Yeah.
I worry more about Dan in that one than I do the Paddy one, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Maybe that's crazy.
I think
I don't know. Were you about to say I think that's crazy?
Yeah. I
See,
think
but Paddy's not the best take. Paddy on the ground is an absolute beast. But the actual takedowns, I don't know. Maybe Dan can keep it on the feet. I don't know. Whereas with Ruffy, I think he's younger. I could just pick those shots.
Yeah.
But who knows? I don't know. But Ruffy looked great. Terrible call out, but Ruffy looked great. I'm really looking forward to see what his next fight is. But I don't know which way they're going to go. He could get a multitude of different fights, but it's just whether you want to give him Gamrot and see if that train could get derailed, or if you give him someone that's not as good a takedown artist, and try and get him another knockout.
Yeah. Rough night in the office for Fiziev. I think, like,
yeah,
I think he was looking good, and I think that's, and I think he's fantastic to watch. Like, I really do. So I don't know what's next for him. Maybe, I don't know, a fun fight with Moicano. That could be an interesting scrap. I don't know. I think it only takes another.
That's a really fun fight.
Yeah.
I mean, you could also remake Fiziev Gamrot, because that's where Fiziev injured his knee. And Gamrot that way. So you could remake that. Equally, you could give Fiziev someone like Manuel Torres. He beat up Bahamundes, I think, a while ago. Give him another young striker coming through like Manuel Torres. See how Manuel Torres does against him. So there's Fiziev. There's loads of options for him to have fun fights. I just think the title aspirations are gone now. There's no title aspirations. I think for Fiziev, he's getting older, and I just don't see him making his way to the top of the division. But he can still be a great top 10 guy that puts on really fun fights. I mean, maybe he puts on a couple of wars, and we talk about him as a potential BMF in the future. Who knows?
Let me tell you what weren't a fun fight.
Oh, go on. I mean, it was kind of fun.
All right, well, it was not fun.
It was kind of fun. It was mental.
I just thought it was awful.
I mean, look, it was scrappy. It was low level because they were both very tired. It was kind of funny to watch at points. I really wanted Ty to just separate. Man, that third round, and he kept he was tired. That's why he was too exhausted. Yeah. If he'd have just separated and just gone for broke and thrown bombs, I think he'd have got him out of there, yeah.
Yeah.
So, look, Tai Tuivasa is on a bad run now. I don't know which loss in a row this is. I'll have to quickly look it up. But I'm pretty sure he's on
I think it might be 6.
It might be. Is it really that much? 6-fight losing streak?
I think it might be 6. But,
look, he is on, you're right, a 6-fight losing streak. And I mean, he was doing so well. He had such a mixed run in the UFC, went 3-3, and then all of a sudden went on this brilliant 5-fight win streak. Stefan Struve, Harry Hunsucker, Greg Hardy, Augusto Sakai, and then Derek Lewis. I mean, not exactly the top of the top in the heavyweight division, but a great 5-fight win streak. And then he fought Cyril Gahn. And then Pavlovich, Volkov, Tybura, Rosenstrike, and now Talison Teixeira, which is by far the worst name on the list of losses there. I love Ty. He's a great character. I don't necessarily want the UFC to get rid of him yet, but he's basically done, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so. I said something on one of the shows the other week where it was like, look, people are always going to want to watch Bam Bam fight because he's fun. But I don't know if that's still the case. It's like just seeing the performance he put in at the weekend. It was just not fun at all. It was like You know, and that's with the home crowd behind you, on coming off a 5-fight losing streak with your home crowd. If you're gonna do it, that's when you want to do it. And he was absolutely blowing out of his arse halfway through that second round, and it was like, okay, like, what you know, what has he changed in his approach to fighting mixed martial arts? In you know, see over them you know, losses, back-to-back losses. It's like, for him to continue now, does he change camp? I don't know. Like, what does he do? Does he? I don't know how he can bounce back from that now. I think that's 6 fights. It's like, you know, and I know heavyweights have got longevity because, you know, they don't move like the other guys, but I just think, I don't know, what do we give him someone like, you know, Louis Sutherland or a Mick Parkin? I don't know, and maybe.
Yeah, I mean that could work. You could give him Derek Lewis again in a rematch. That'd be fun.
But even after watching Derek Lewis the other week,
great in his last
anybody
fight.
ever want to watch him fight again? It was just awful.
Oh, come on. If they said to you, hey, not a main event, but like a main card opener, we've got, and anyway, you could do it at the White House, you could do it anywhere. If they said the main card opener tonight is Tai Tuivasa versus Derek Lewis.
1 round with a $200,000 finish bonus. 1 round. I'll be up for that.
Yeah, but look, however you do it, it's just like, those are 2 big names. You know that they're just going to come and throw hands, and you also know no one is going to try and take down the other one. So you're going to get exactly what you want from both of those men. They're going to meet in the middle. The fight's going to be the best part of 90 seconds, and they are just going to throw huge bungalows at each other. And that is it. That is what they're going to do. And do you know what? That's a good time. If you're an MMA fan, that's a good time. Sit down, mates. Get your drinks and snacks ready. 90 seconds of fun. And then we can all pop to the toilet and put the kettle on or whatever we're doing.
Have a shoey.
Have a shoey. Like, whatever. Those 2 are fun. And both of them, if either one wins, you're also having a good time, because Derek Lewis is going to take his shorts off, say his balls are hot, and come out with something funny. Or Tai Tuivasa is going to be on top of the cage doing a shoey, and it's a nice time because Tai Tuivasa's broken what is a very long losing streak.
Look, I wanted Tai to win on the weekend. Like, you know, home crowd, I wanted to see him win. I wanted to see Dan Hooker win. I know you don't believe me, but I love Dan Hooker. But I think both of these fighters, I do think that their time's like coming to an end. I really do.
Make it a double retirement fight then.
Yeah.
Give them one more.
All right.
Loser gets to leave, a winner, gets to leave with a little bit more pride. And the loser just has to, you know, walk off into the sunset on yet another loss.
All right.
An Australian that was absolutely fantastic, Quillan Salkeld. I mean, that guy, the difference between, was it the Dawodu? Was it Dawodu? He head kick? No, hack press.
No, it was, hack press.
Hack press, wasn't it? Why have I got Dawodu? I think there's been a spell check autocorrecting thing, because it said I put the finish from the Dawodu Day head kick. I'm like, Dawodu Day? What's Dawodu Day? So my autocorrect is there. Hack pressed. The difference between that and what he did to Jamie Malarkey was so big. Like, he got that throw was very impactful, and then it was more of a face crank than a rear naked choke. I think I don't remember it being under the chin, but it just shows how well rounded he is. To head kick hack press like that, and then to go on and do what he did to Jamie Malarkey, this guy is someone we want to pay really close attention to. There's a big gap between who he's beaten so far and the top 10 guys in the division. However, he's shown range in ability. He's shown that he's well-rounded. I mean, get him on a card very, very soon and potentially give him a ranked guy. That's what I'm thinking. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think I'm just having a little look at the rankings now. Right, let's just pull them up. I don't know. Do you give him a Torres or?
I'd like to see Torres move. Did Torres win his last fight? If Torres won his last fight, I'd like him to move up in the rankings. I'm looking at Beneil Dariush and going, oh, that could work. Sorry to Beneil to be like
Manuel
the
beat
guy
Grant Dawson in his last fight, and he beat Drew Dober in the fight before that.
So Manuel should be getting a fight above him. Manuel should be getting Fiziev or something like that. And I like Manuel Torres a lot. I think Salkeld, you could just give him another fight quickly, just to give him yet another win. But I think you could give him someone like Beneil Dariush. And that, I think that's a big step up.
It's a huge step up.
But I think it's very winnable. I think Beneil is on the way out. The problem is Beneil is coming off of
one loss to Benoit. Before that, he beat Moicano.
Yeah, but before that, he lost twice as well to two very good guys in Charles Oliveira and Arman Tsarukyan. But I think this is sort of where Beneil might be at now. But he got knocked out quite easily in just a few seconds against Beneil back in November. So maybe March or something. Yeah. In November. But yeah, so maybe in March or something like that. That could be a good time. March, April. Yeah. Get Salkeld going again. Yeah, that makes sense to me. But you could give him anyone outside the top 15 as well and just get him another win potentially. Yeah. But it's all there. There's not a huge amount else I am interested in talking about other than heart goes out to Oban Elliott a little bit.
Yeah, mate.
Because he was doing so well in that fight. I felt like he was piecing Mikalev up on the feet. And it was like he went in for like a kind of body lock clinch situation, and Mikalev just went, thank you, take down. And then it was just, there was a difference in levels there.
Yeah.
Apparently there was some bad blood beforehand. I'm not really too much aware of what went on there.
There was some sort of like back and forth in the face-offs and stuff, but I don't know what else happened sort of, behind the scenes. But yeah, I'm sure he'll be back. He's, he's the Welsh gangster, mate. And best of luck to Oban Elliott. Look,
Mikalev's face as well. I mean, Oban really, he put
absolutely,
it on him. He did really well at points. So yeah, I don't think that this loss is like a damning indictment on Oban Elliott at all. I think if anything, he's showing he belongs in the UFC. Whereabouts he belongs? Does he belong? Will he eventually get in the rankings? Is he more of a perennial kind of guy on the outside, like top 20 something, or who knows? But there's the way Oban fights and the way he conducted himself in the cage and all that kind of stuff. I think he's someone the UFC would be happy to keep around for a while. I don't see why they would be desperate to get rid of him. He's a personality as well.
He is a personality, and that watching the Embeddeds, like they were following him around, and it's like that's testament to how much the UFC like him and know he's a character. Yeah. He's on the he's on the prelims. He's not a huge name in the sport, and there's a whole main card of stars, and but they were following Oban around, and there was lots of footage of Oban on various episodes of Embedded. So I think the UFC like him, and I think they'll keep him around, and it's a shame that he didn't get a win, because if he would have got a quick win, I'd love to have seen him back and maybe fighting at UFC London, which. We should say that I think next week's card, I mean, this upcoming weekend, we've got Bautista versus Oliveira coming up. And so we'll touch on any of the action from that on next week's show. But also, I think we're going to touch on the fact they've announced the London card, which for UK fight fans, it's absolutely stacked if you're a UK fight fan, because all of our fighters pretty much are thrown in the mix there, and there's some interesting ones. There's some, we'll talk more about it next week. But Co-Main, Luke Riley, I think that's caused some interesting discussion on the forums. Yeah. I mean, we're huge Luke Riley. Well, I'm a crazy Luke Riley fan, and I'm very excited to see him there. But we'll discuss that next week. Also, we'll touch on the fact that a lastminute.com fight has come in, and Brandon Moreno is now going to be fighting Lonna Kavanagh. I mean, who saw that coming?
That what an opportunity for Lonnie Kavanagh.
What an opportunity.
All reward, no real risk. You're doing the UFC a favour as well. I think it's a great move from Lonnie Kavanagh to have taken that fight. I'm trying to think, who was Brandon Moreno meant to be fighting?
He was meant to be fighting.
I'll find out now. Oh, Asu Almabayev. So yeah, well there you go. So as you say, all those things to talk about next week. We're basically hitting the hour now. One thing that we should mention is that this show is sponsored by Fat Candy, and you can get your delicious freeze-dried sweetie goodness from fatcandy.com and use the discount code SWEETMMA. That's SWEETMMA. Enjoy those. They're delicious, particularly the Skittles.
I'll tell you what, lastly, just before we sign off, head over to Instagram, give us a follow, and DM us or comment on the YouTube video fighters that you think are BMFs. Who can make it to the BMF?
Like, because that's a great chat.
Are we missing people here? Because I think VOLK should be in the mix of things. Blake doesn't. I don't necessarily think Dan Hooker's the draw that he once was in the world of BMF. I don't think he's there anymore.
I'm going to say, I think he needs a win. But if he were to beat Paddy, I think he can get a shot at the BMF.
Yeah, then things change. If he beats Paddy, I'm not mad at that.
He is always and forever a BMF. I just don't know if you can give him a title shot off a loss.
Well, look, you've heard our thoughts and opinions on it.
Yeah.
So let's hear yours. Get commenting on potential BMF matchups, and who you think's going to win the belt. So yeah, lots to talk about. Get commenting and comment either underneath this week's episode's posts on Instagram or DM us.
All right. Thank you very much for listening, guys. Bye.
Bye.